My grandpa is one of my biggest role models. He's what I'd call a giver. He puts his family before anything else because family is the most important thing to him. I think one thing I admire most about him is his compassion for others. I'm also extremely proud of him. He's one of the bravest people I know, and I'm honored that I get to help share his story that is 94 years in the making. I'm Sienna Pilati, granddaughter of Mr. William E. Pilati, a longtime Stark County resident and World War II veteran who served in the United States Army to defend our nation during one of its darkest times.
I'm Sarah Shepard.
And I'm Logan Corbett.
We are students from Hoover High School in North Canton, Ohio. Veterans Day is a time to celebrate America's veterans for their willingness to serve and the sacrifices they've made for the good of our country.
Today, we'll take a closer look at one veteran's story. With the signing of the Treaty of Versailles, which marked the end of World War I, people around the world never anticipated another global war. However, just 21 years later, the stage was set when Nazi Germany, led by Adolf Hitler, began their expansion into Western Europe with the goal of extending their political ideas. World War II officially began on September 1st, 1939, but the United States didn't enter the war until the Japanese bombing of Pearl Harbor on December 7th, 1941.
Of its millions of free men and women.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt declared war shortly after the bombing of Pearl Harbor. The decision to enter the war was a popular idea amongst the rest of the country. Due to the passing of the Selective Training and Service Act of 1940, men who were able were required to register for the draft. Throughout the course of World War II, over 10 million men were drafted. One of these men was William E. Pilati. Mr. Pilati was right out of high school at the time and had to put his future plans on hold while he fought on behalf of our country.
But I grew up in a little town in Negley and went to a 4-room school, 2 grades in each room. We had 4 teachers. Each teacher taught 2 grades. No running water in the building. We had a pump outside where we went to get our drink and to wash our hands, and we had outside toilets. So it was quite an experience and quite different than what you're all experiencing today. I had no brothers, no sisters, and I often wish I had brothers and sisters, but I was all alone. It was during the Depression years when we moved to Negley in 1931, and my father worked for $1 a day digging coal. And if there were people lined up to take the job in case someone wanted to quit. And then he was fortunate enough to get a job on a railroad for 30 cents an hour, 8 hours a day. That's $2.40. So that was quite an increase from $1. But things were difficult, but I always had all the clothes I needed and the food I needed, but we didn't have all the luxuries, and never had pop or chips or pretzels in the house or anything like that. Just the basics, but I never went hungry. But I do remember that one of my friends, he would bring mustard sandwiches for lunch. Yellow mustard on his sandwiches. That was his lunch. So things were difficult back then. December 7th of 41 is when the Japanese struck Pearl Harbor, and that was on a Sunday, and we came home from church and heard the news on the radio. And I remember asking my father, I said, well, I have to go to war. And he said, well, son, I don't know, we'll just have to wait and see. But that was certainly on my mind, and at that time I was a sophomore in high school.
2 years later, when the draft notice came, Mr. Pilati only had a few weeks to say his goodbyes before he shipped out for training. All he could take with him were the clothes on his back and a toothbrush. Just a few months after graduating high school, Pilati was sent off to fight for his country.
Actually, I got my notice in November of '43, and I had to report in late November. being an only child, Mom and Dad were very concerned. And they knew that eventually I'd probably be shipped overseas after basic training. For the next couple weeks at home, we were all kind of sad knowing that I was going to have to go off to the service and then eventually into combat probably. Fort Sill was the first camp I went to. Fort Sill was a beautiful camp. Had beautiful barracks, nice green grass, and it was a fairly new camp, so it was very pleasant to be there because we had very, very good training. In fact, our last night at Fort Sill, they put you through what they call an infiltration night, and you had to crawl on your stomach carrying your gun, and the barbed wire was 20 inches from the ground up, and you had to crawl under that, and there was live ammunition being shot over your head. And every fifth shot was a tracer, so I'll tell you what, you had to keep your head down. And then when we got shipped to Camp Campbell, we arrived in Camp Campbell about 2:30 in the morning by train, pouring down rain, not a blade of grass, nothing but mud. And the first place they took us was into a large mess hall, and there were cockroaches all over the place. So I'll tell you, it was quite different than Fort Sill.
After months of training in the States, Pilati, along with the rest of the troops, had to head overseas to prepare for battle.
We were going to sail for England, and we went alone. We were not in a convoy, so we kind of zigzagged the Atlantic Ocean. But it took us, I think it was a total of 16 days before we arrived in Liverpool, England. But one thing I vividly remember when we left Camp Shanks, there was a first lieutenant out on the deck with a lot of other soldiers, of course, and he made a comment that really, I think about it yet today. He said, "Get a good look at it, soldier," meaning the Statue of Liberty. He said, "You may never see it again." But fortunately, I was able to come back. There were 5,000 troops on this ship, and in peacetime, this ship held 500 passengers. We were sleeping all over the place, on top of one another, and I'll tell you. And for breakfast, they fed us boiled hot dogs and boiled potatoes. I think at that time was starting to set in that, hey, we're going to go to battle. And up until that time, well, we hadn't thought a lot about it. But now we could see that we're going to go to battle against the Germans.
After more than 2 weeks of traveling, the troops arrived in Liverpool. Pilati, along with the rest of the 275th Armored Field Artillery Battalion, were prepared to enter combat. Pilati was assigned to work with the crew on a half-track, a military vehicle that has the cross-country capabilities of a tank and the handling of a smaller vehicle. The half-track was manufactured by the White Motor Company in Cleveland, Ohio, combined with parts manufactured by the Timken Company in Canton.
A half-track is actually, it may look like a truck, but it's an armored vehicle that has tracks on each side in the back, and in the front it has big rubber tires. It has a 50 caliber machine gun and a 30 caliber, and there's a man assigned to each one of those guns, and it carries a crew of about 5 to 6 men. And as I said before, a lot of times we would sleep right in our half-tracks. But yeah, it was used in battle, definitely, with the guns mounted on it. So it was an important piece of equipment to go along with your armored tanks, which shot the 105 shells.
After struggling to get through the brutally cold winter months, the crew was planning a winter offensive. However, the Germans were planning to attack during the winter. This would prompt the start of the Battle of the Bulge, which began on December 16, 1944.
For a couple days it was chaos because we just didn't know if we were going east, west, north, or south. The Germans turned all the signs around, Malmedy, St. Vith, Bastogne, and troops were getting separated from their companies, their battalions. So after a couple days we got reorganized and we got the word to move forward. And everyone was finding their outfits again, and we moved forward at that time. When the German bombs would come in, you would hear them hitting the trees and weird sounds like They called it like a screaming Mimi. And man, it was so different than out in the open spaces, just from that sound alone.
The constant sounds of gunfire and bombs put soldiers on edge. The stress of living under the imminent threat of attack affected Pilati and his fellow soldiers.
Myself and another soldier, we were on guard duty one night, and we would hear this noise, and we would sound out the word halt, and the noise would continue. Halt. We could hear this noise again. Pretty soon, we opened fire. And my gosh, the next morning, to our amazement, we had shot a cow. We thought it was a German soldier or something, but we shot a cow. So we didn't waste it. We used it for meat, and we lived pretty good for a while.
Pilati's regiment was sent to fight in the Ardennes forest on the border of Germany and Belgium. This would become known as the Germans' last offensive during the Battle of the Bulge.
Well, on Christmas Day of 1944, we were kind of surrounded. We were like the hole in a donut. And fortunately, we did get a break. It was late Christmas afternoon when we got a break, and there was a small opening. And we were able to escape. I was in B Battery. We moved out. Things were very difficult at that time. There was also a lot of fog, and our airplanes couldn't get in to give us any air support or drop supplies or anything for 4 or 5 days. Once the Battle of the Bulge was over, we started advancing pretty rapidly, and we crossed the Rhine River in March of '45. And once we crossed the Rhine River, by the time we put our guns in position and ready to fire, the Germans were out of range. So we had what they call close station march order and had to move forward again and set up. But they were retreating so rapidly at that time that we could hardly keep up with them. I think that was the most bitter battle we were in. And incidentally, that was the largest battle that the American troops were ever in. There were 600,000 troops in the Battle of the Bulge. And of that number, there were, I think it was 80,000 casualties, and that included 19,250 dead and 23,000 prisoners of war. So that was the largest battle that the American troops were ever in.
While overseas, Pilati had little communication with his parents. The military has strict rules on sharing one's location, with the fear of the opposition catching wind of where their enemy is located.
You had to be careful what you said in your letter, because they would, a lot of times they didn't think it was appropriate to mention anything in there. They would cut it out and send the letter afterward. All that was cut out. And we would receive letters from home, but sometimes, God, you'd receive a letter telling you of some event that happened, and maybe a week later you'd get another letter telling you that this event is going to come about. So you never knew when you were going to get mail. But mail call was a wonderful thing. It was, God, it was great to hear from the people back home.
Pilati and his parents created a secret system to communicate so they would be able to know where their son was.
Under the stamp, I would just put down maybe Germany or France, or didn't name the town or anything, but just that much information. And Mom and Dad would kind of steam that stamp off. And sometime it worked, I guess, because they were able to find out during that period that that's where I was at. But you had to be careful what you said. If the Germans got the information as where you're at, what you're doing, that would be their advantage. So we all had to be careful.
When Pilati came back from overseas, he was sent to Camp Miles Standish in Boston. After 30 days, he had to report to Camp Bowie, Texas for 6 weeks to train for the Pacific. 2 weeks into training, the United States dropped bombs on Hiroshima, which took 140,000 lives, and on Nagasaki, which took another 70,000. After the bombs were dropped, Pilati and the other remaining soldiers would no longer be sent to the Pacific.
After more than 2 years at war, it was time for my grandfather to come home. For anyone, war is a dangerous and stressful time. Even if you are able to come home without physical injury, the memories of war don't go away easily. Thankfully, he was surrounded by family and friends who could help him during the difficult times. One special person was Ruth Bricker, my grandmother.
I was in the 6th grade and Ruth came to town. She was in the 5th grade. She moved in from a little town of New Waterford. And I guess we just kind of had eyes on each other, started in the 5th and 6th grade, and Ruth waited for me while I was in the service. As I said, we were married in December of '47. After we got married, we definitely wanted to start a family, and we ended up with 5 sons. We had our own basketball team, 5 boys. Ruth was the cheerleader and I was the coach. How about that?
Serving our country in World War II delayed the start of Pilati's life and career after high school. Coming home would mean picking up where he left off.
I was one of the fortunate ones that was not injured. I came back to the States. I was in good shape. It was something difficult to go through at our young ages, as most of the troops were 18, 19, 20 years old. But it's an experience that you can't just read about in a book. You have to be there and see it and be involved with it. I came back and I got a job in the brick industry, because that's where my father ended up, in the brick industry. And I had 40 years in the brick industry, 25 years with Metropolitan Brick out of Canton, Ohio, and 15 years with another company called Darlington Brick.
William Pilati has 5 sons, 11 grandchildren, 5 great-grandchildren, and 2 great-great-grandchildren. Today, he is 94 years old. At just 18 years of age, he served overseas for a total of 27 months, with a third of that time spent in combat in the European theater. We thank him for his service with the 275th Armored Field Battalion. While it has been many years since his service in the military, he has continued to serve in the community and the Minerva local schools.
After I retired, I did a lot of volunteering. I help out at the schools on Fridays. I go and work with the 3rd graders. One-on-one, I'm out in the hall with a little desk, help them with their reading and their math and spelling and what have you. And that's quite an experience. I really enjoy that. They call me Grandpa Bill. We should all respect the flag. We should have so much to be thankful for, because all of the troops, whether they were in Europe or Japan, we were all fighting for the freedom of our country, and we have so much to be thankful for in this country. It's a wonderful country, definitely the best country there is to live in, and we should respect the flag and honor the veterans.
Out of the 16 million U.S. veterans involved in World War II, less than 3% are still living today.
On this Veterans Day, and every day, be sure to find time to thank anyone who has served in the armed forces. Their service to our country, to us, should never be forgotten. We should approach them with gratitude and celebration. The story of William E. Pilati is symbolic of the experiences of many World War II veterans.
His patriotism, his bravery, and his sacrifice are just a few of the many reasons why it was such an honor to share my grandfather's story.
I may need some help. I'm 94 years old. Yep, I'm okay here. I got it. terrific.